Berserker's not him anymore. Like, he was him for a while. He's not him. I feel nothing when I play against him. Absolutely nothing. Like, he was really, really good. He was always going to be good in the game. Anytime there was a fight, he had a remote chance of winning. He would take it and he would murder you. He would misplay almost no scenarios. Always like has a really clear goal of how to win the game, what his purpose is, and how he needs to play. And I think that's actually, honestly, a big part now that Sven's not here anymore, thanks to Sven. And I think a lot of people didn't understand that. And I think that he probably like made sure Berserker was on top of his game because he himself still wants to play AD.
Welcome back to Pros. Bwipo, Insanity, APA. You guys picked up on the common thread between the three of you.
Yeah.
What is it?
We all pick unique characters.
Crazy picks, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think my picks are crazy, but
I wouldn't say crazy.
Xante's a little crazy.
Oh yeah.
Especially for you, you know?
Yeah.
I was going to say you all want 1-1, but I mean, if you say they're different picks. Either way, I want to talk about this week, though, because the LCS, I think, has been really exciting, but that's more because there's been so many upsets. We have FlyQuest in first, 100 Thieves randomly in second place at 6-3.
Wow, randomly?
Yeah,
to me,
random.
okay.
Pretty random.
Okay. That'll be our first topic. A bunch of teams at 4 and 5, and then 3 and 6. So just like one game separating essentially 4th place from 8th place. And if the last 2 games were different results, there was a chance we had like a 6-way tie after 9 games. And we only have like 5 more games. So do you think the amount of volatility is due to the teams being close in skill, or is it just like random best of one noise?
I think just best of one noise.
Partly best of one noise, but I think it also has to do with, like, there's a lot of new players and new teams in general.
Yeah.
In the past, there have been more, like, at least more teams that have been playing the previous year, you know? So there's a lot more, like, synergy there. But also, I think, what's it called? I think it's a lot of the live patch as well.
Okay. And just having like a different read on the game.
Yeah, there are just some games. I feel like some teams just lose completely from draft.
What was an example of that this week?
It's one of the games that casted. I felt like Insanity's game versus
last week?
Yeah, Insanity's game versus 100 Thieves was completely unwinnable from draft.
Which game was that?
That was the one where I played Stein versus Aatrox mid.
Yeah.
That matchup's totally fine if you know what you're doing, I think.
Yeah, of course.
You just had no idea.
It was a skin. I was using the wrong skin.
No,
my Qs weren't connecting.
I think that draft is completely fine. You just need to know how to play Aatrox Sion, and I guarantee you had not seen someone play Aatrox in the Sion.
I've played against it.
Okay, well, I can tell you. I actually think Quid is like very good at Aatrox.
Yeah, he's
so
definitely good.
I think you would not have practiced against someone
I played
as
against
good.
Quid, actually.
Well, how come you got shit on that hard then?
I think I just didn't show up on the day. Just played like shit.
Fair enough. Because I don't think the draft is that bad. You just have to be able to play that matchup mid. Like, I think it's not an easy matchup, but it's not a matchup that will end the game.
Not as bad as what I perceive it as, then it's probably a playable draft. But
I'd say it's a winning draft. Like,
I mean,
Sion has timings to pressure the Aatrox if you played well.
Yep. I mean, I didn't have timings that game, but we kind of threw at some point when we actually had a decent.
Did you play
spot
Grasp or Spellbook?
Grasp.
Then you should absolutely stomp him in the first 3 levels. Like, you should have full prio, and like from that point onwards, you like get a free reset for like double cloth armor at some point, and then you just stonewall him for the majority of the game. Like, unless you are like getting shit on 1v1, which is kind of what happened. Like,
it is what happened.
You blew your Sion ult, which is like the main reason you can fight back in that matchup, because you like CC chain him and then you win, and you just like whiff it, and then I mean, it's just totally BG.
You should have 1v1 Bwipo.
1v1 Bwipo?
I think this is content now. Would you want to play Aatrox side against Bwipo?
In
the future.
My Aatrox isn't the best.
Okay.
I need some.
I'd win both sides, so it doesn't matter.
Oh my God.
It doesn't matter.
Okay,
it would take him a lot. It would take you a lot of 1v1s with me to win me on this one. It's not even about seeing it. It's just like I actually think that like so many people underestimate how much like experience matters in that sense. Like, no offense in this, but I was blind picking Sion into some very good players that were playing Aatrox into me, and I did not have trouble laning. So like, you know what I mean? Like, I think like I realized this as well. Like, sometimes when, especially on the topic of crazy picks, is like. There's a lot of meta picks I just played into some of the best players in the world, and I had no problem laning.
Okay, yeah.
So like, I actually went away from crazy picks with that in mindset, especially this split in LCS, where I was just like, you know what? I don't have to do anything crazy. Like, obviously, I have my pocket picks, but I don't think Olaf is a crazy top laner. Like, he's been like one of the best solo queue top laners in the game for like 2 years straight since his rework. That's not a crazy pick. People are just slow as hell in picking up what champions are actually good at the game.
It was kind of like
in the game.
It's kind of like with Udyr. He's actually been strong for a while. Obviously, I think the changes made him stronger.
I agree. Yeah, and people pick up on it, and some people don't pick up on it. I agree. Yeah.
There was a time before they nerfed the champion. His R did like I think 70 more base damage level 1. It literally, you could just kill somebody with just RR level 1.
It was really, really OP. I agree.
Man. All right, 100 Thieves. We're gonna come back to champions at the end because I love how much you guys already have to talk about each other. But now there's no one on 100 Thieves here to defend themselves or back them up. Do you think they're the second best team in the league?
No.
Across the board. So no.
I mean, like, I'm a simple guy. You show up on the stage, then you're the better team.
Yeah.
They are officially second.
I don't think they're bad. Like, to be honest, I didn't really believe the power rankings were like 7th or 8th or whatever.
Sure.
Like, because I do think very highly of River, and I thought Quid was kind of grief last year. So I think highly of those two players, but I think some of the kills Sniper's getting top lane aren't really.
He's had a lot. He like leads the league in solo kills
like,
at the moment.
I watched him kill, and it's like the enemy top is just a bot. Like yesterday, I flamed Impact for being a bot. The way he died to Sniper.
And you got another one today against Fudge. What do you
and I think Fudge played like a bot there as well.
I mean, you can say they played like a bot, but I think you have to give credit where it's due. He's playing pretty well. Like, regardless of whether the guy messed up or not, I think he's playing the situations really well for what's happening. And I don't know if people expected him to play worse than he is now, but I never thought Sniper was going to be like a bad player in the beginning. I thought he would need some time to like really show up, but he's been showing up a lot of the games. So I think him and River are actually Quid as well has been performing pretty damn well too. I think their top side's really showing up this split.
Yeah, I think really highly of River Quid. I just don't think the other people around the map are like up to that standard, if that makes sense. And then, I think, to be honest, I think I was really upset yesterday. I think our whole team was upset yesterday that we lost to 100 Thieves because I think we played like really, really poorly, just to be completely honest. And then we just lost fights that we should never lose.
Bwipo, I see you're smirking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's for me, 100 Thieves, two different teams depending on what Sniper locks in top lane. So, like, for me, from my POV, when some of the things he's running in, like when he's playing some of the meta picks and scrims, I'm like, this guy actually, he doesn't even know what skill to skill level 1. Like, he's walking into lane, skilling the wrong skill. He's like completely got the wrong idea on champions that are completely meta. I'm not going to league exactly what, but like,
I mean, we're not playing until March.
I mean, sure, yeah. Like he walked in the lane as Udyr and like he was just spamming RR on cooldown no matter what. Like you're supposed to use WW. That's what makes the champs good top lane because you just have so much sustain that no one can handle it. So you whittle your opponent down in a war of attrition. You don't just one-shot him with RR. Then he would play like Cassante skilling Q into me when I'm playing like a match, like skilling Q into me when I'm playing like Udyr or something. So I just murder him early game. And stuff like this is like you just had the wrong idea coming into lane, and I think that they've just fully subscribed to making certain picks work for him and then just pick it no matter what.
Aatrox.
It's Cassante and Aatrox are the ones that stand out. And I don't think he's particularly good on the champions. I mean, he leads the solo kills, but I murdered him 1v1 on a matchup that is actually losing. Olaf Aatrox has always been Aatrox's favorite. I'm going to say it right now. It is not Olaf's favorite if you know what you're doing. Just people are shit scared of me. When I pick Olaf, people are just, they are just afraid. Which is like crazy because I think if you play with confidence in that matchup, it is definitely winning. Obviously, it's not like free win. Like there's skill, there's obviously a lot of micro going on there, but I would say it's Aatrox favored, especially if you know real tech. But again, I'm not going to educate people on how to.
Did you see the Aatrox Olaf solo kill today?
Yeah, it was disgusting. There's nothing more to it. Like it's just funny to me that like Fudge. I mean, just everything. His build that game terrible. Like I don't know. Like I feel like a lot of people don't do research of what makes a champion good. Like when you look at like unique picks, like I don't consider like Olaf to be a crazy pick because like I said, he's been so strong for so long. But people just don't do research. Like what makes this champion actually good? Like how does the champion behave at 1 item, at 2 items, at 3 items, and how does the meta behave? Like how do you want to attack that? That's where I ground most of my off meta picks. Yeah. Right. So like for example, I think a crazy pick is like Rengar. Like that is crazy because you have to be creative to find ways to make a champion work in the meta. But if you pick Olaf or Aatrox right now, they behave like the same champion. Just one blocks CC and the other one like does a crazy amount of AoE damage. They still have the same purpose in the draft. They do the same thing. There's nothing crazy about picking another bruiser to replace a bruiser. Crazy for me is when someone plays a champion and like changes the common sense way of playing it. So everyone's like, wait, this guy does this on this champion that's completely different from everyone else. So for example, I play Ghost TP on Olaf. Most Olaf players play
Flash Ghost.
Flash Ghost. They try to kill you in lane. So like that for me is like playing Flash Ghost is like, or TP Ghost is like a very different way to approach the champion. Like someone would play TP Ghost or TP Flash on Darius, for example, would also change the way the champion would behave. This makes me curious, and I know I said we're going to talk about the other teams in the league, which we're going to get back to, but because you're bringing up Olaf, Aurelion Sol, that was like, and maybe I'm wrong, but that was like the first champion you really giga-mained to get high rank.
Yeah, I was the like Asol Talia guy when I first got Challenger, however many seasons ago.
Yeah, and now it's almost full circle. You got to play it again on stage today.
Yeah.
Different pick. The champion's been changed a
Different champion
lot.
for sure.
But like even back then, are there more general things that you feel like you were able to do on Asol that allowed you to get rank 1 or that allowed you to win all these games that other people weren't winning?
I don't think like the old Asol has really transferred to the new Asol. Like the only skill that's the same is I mean before his E, but now it's his W.
Yeah, I'm more thinking like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like you were able to get rank 1 in so many different places.
Yeah.
But you had this really hard road into the LCS where teams maybe didn't think your mechanics were good or they didn't think your lane phase was good, but like you knew how to win the game, right? So like what were you doing to win the game if everyone else thought these other players were doing other things better than you?
I feel like I don't think I'm doing like anything insanely special in the game. Like this last game, I just, you know, matched Insanity. I pushed him because like I beat him 1v1 in side lane, and then I'd call my team when he called his team. Like we got 2 side lane turrets, and then I feel like they just threw the game at Baron.
Sure.
Like it wasn't a whole lot of me winning the game in Asol. It was just like I had big ultimate, we'd rumble ultimate, they pulled Baron, they're gonna choke. Just like it's the first team fight win ever.
Right. Was there something in your in like even before you got to Team Liquid, like what did you think you were doing basically better than the people you were beating in solo queue or in champs queue?
I think solo queue is really bad, but
okay.
To be completely honest with you, but I think
I'm basically just trying to figure out like what was your cheat to get to rank 1?
I just feel like I'm really good at the characters. That's all.
Okay.
Like I feel like I'm really, really good at Asol. Like like maybe Insanity knows a little bit about the matchup, but anytime Vi showed, I just W4'd him like a psychopath in lane. Yeah. And he just can't trade back.
Yep.
Like I
have to run away.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just lose the trade or just die. Literally just die or have to burn my flash or my ulti. So
like I feel like I know the champions like strengths really well, and I know the matchups probably a lot better. Like that's why Ziggs works a lot for me, because like I know every little thing about Ziggs.
Exactly. And is it an advantage because other people don't know every little thing about Ziggs?
Sure. Like,
and if it was more of a meta champion, you wouldn't be able to get that edge?
Like the amount of times I've killed people level 2 as Ziggs, because his Q and his passive do so much damage, and like the enemy Orianna will just die. Right. It's just like they have no clue that Ziggs is that much damage early on, and then they'll just die, and they're like, what the f can we remake?
Yeah. And then Insanity, you have gotten the reputation, even though everyone here plays unique picks, of being like the guy who plays weird picks. Is that because you like the weird picks? Because you back-to-back Orianna this week. So how do you feel about that being part of your brand now?
I actually don't like it.
Okay.
Not in the sense of I don't like weird picks. Like weird picks in general is like, for example, if I played Akshan mid, I think is like something that people don't really see very often at all. It's more of a solo queue champion. I enjoy playing the meta first and then having pocket picks to come out when people ban the meta champions or the meta matchups, you know? But I think it was kind of unfortunate the way we played it out for the first half of this split. I would have liked to play more, like for example a Zero Orianna or even Corki before it got nerfed. But usually I don't really like to play weird champions like that, you know, mostly in solo queue because it's just fun. Like I like to play, in the past I was a Zac AP, full AP Zac one trick mid, and I was just one-shotting people because they didn't understand the damage. But that was like when I was like 16, 17, you know. But for the most part, after I went pro, I just like playing the meta because they were just the strongest champions, and I thought, for the most part, I understood the matchups very well. But honestly, I think the only thing I wouldn't have played this split was the Garen. I think that was a huge mistake, and I also played it really poorly because I didn't understand the matchup or the full limit of my champion because I didn't play it enough. But I think the Sion was fine. I think Sion's actually a really strong champion in a lot of matchups around mid right now, just because tank items are really, really broken. Like Frozen Heart was probably the most broken item in the game for a little bit. I think it still is really strong. And then same thing with Kinnick Rukern. That item is just disgusting.
You get that item, you're unkillable.
Yes. Well, the thing is, it's what's the cooldown? It's like 10 seconds to refresh, 12 seconds?
12 seconds and nerf to 15.
You can just push the wave. They waste their mana hitting you. You don't even break the shield. And then you just leave the lane. And they can never fight you back.
Yeah, next wave, you just have another 800 HP shield.
Yeah, it's like having a Warmogs pretty much, but you actually get MR stats, so it's just broken. I think Zac actually, I enjoyed playing that one against this guy here, but I think I played pretty poorly in the first few minutes of the game, and then later on in the game I just got way too, went in too fast.
So you said when you became a pro player, you didn't really like playing the meta, but you understood the meta matchups, and you almost trusted that the meta was correct with the champions that were strong. Because there are hundreds of pro players that grind on this, But then I guess kind of the question is, how do you get to picks like Sion or like Olaf or like Ziggs, where those are picks like, okay, different question, I guess. If everyone played Ziggs, would Ziggs still be good? And if everyone played Sion, would Sion mid still be good?
I think they would still be good, but I think people would have more
Better
of an understanding of the champions and its strengths and what it's weak against, rather than just people, oh, shit, there's a Sion on my screen. Let me pick, I don't know, Nico, for example. Like, you're not going to do damage to the Sion after the first 4 minutes of the game. Like, it's just a bad champion into it, you know? People will understand more like, oh, against Sion, I can play, for example, Aurelion Sol and just free farm in the game, you know? But people don't think about these matchups because they're not meta, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, people panic in the moment when they're playing
pick
against
comfortable.
it. Yes, they pick what they're comfortable at. So then, even if it's comfortable, it might not be a good matchup for the champion, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure.
Thanks for that. I want to get back a little bit to LCS, then we'll dive more into the micro champions. Cloud9, it's 4 and 5. They're like a game out of last place.
Is that last place? 3
and 6 is last place.
Yeah, they're right above us.
They're 1 game ahead of Shopify, 1 game ahead of Immortals. They're 3 games behind FlyQuest.
Yeah, we have 7 wins.
Yeah. What is wrong, in everyone's opinion? We can start with Bwipo. What's wrong with Cloud9? Why isn't it working? Is it something that you think they're going to fix, or is there something wrong with their construction?
I mean, I have a pretty strong opinion on super teams and like what entails to be like a real super team.
Because you were on a super team in Team Liquid, but let's talk about Cloud9 first.
Yeah, I mean, like that's why I'm talking about a super. Are they not a super team?
Well, they were.
They were.
Have
the results make them not super
MVPs.
teams. Basically, I think a super team is a combination of players that will make every decision difficult to make, right?
Yeah.
Individually, players need to be able to squeeze their opponent in a way where every time a jungler or a support decides to help a lane, the other lanes will suffer. That's what a super team is. I've played against many. I've played on myself super teams that were actually successful. And even though people didn't coin that term for a while, I can tell you 2018, I was playing on Fnatic, that was a super team because every time the jungler showed and someone suffered on my team, the other 2 laners went, fuck yeah.
Yeah, you're saying super team actually just needs to be performance-wise 3 lanes that are just always able to.
That is what a real super team is, yeah.
Not just resumes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that makes it really hard to play the game because the jungler is just clearing his camps, playing a high tempo game. Meanwhile, all 3 lanes are winning at the same time, and you have to make a decision to win somewhere. And the second you do, someone else is bleeding, and that's what makes it hard to play against a super team. I think C9 is not winning their lanes nearly hard enough. Like Berserker and Vulcan have looked like, to me, like Berserker's not him anymore. Like he was him for a while. He's not him. I feel nothing when I play against him. Absolutely nothing. And like maybe it's like just me, but I have a history of playing very high like intensity matches against some of the literal best players in the world. You know, I don't say that because I think it's funny. It's just a fact. And you can feel when someone is really good at the game. And I think Berserker had that. Like he was really, really good. He was always going to be good in the game. Anytime there was a fight, he had a remote chance of winning. He would take it and he would murder you. He would misplay almost no scenarios. Always like has a really clear goal of how to win the game, what his purpose is, and how he needs to play. And I think that's actually, honestly, a big part now that Sven's not here anymore. Thanks to Sven. And I think a lot of people didn't understand that because I think if someone's playing the role you want to play and you're just constantly like trying to get back, because at the end of the day, Sven played support because it was just the most intelligent thing to do. It's not because he wanted to. And I think that he probably like made sure Berserker was on top of his game because he himself still wants to play AD. And as a result, like you could tell in game that someone's decision making is like only catered towards winning the game. Like that's how I felt playing as Berserkers. Like every decision he makes is like he's making sure he's in the best position to carry the game. He doesn't do that anymore. He's like very like how do I say this? Like
loose.
Loose is a good way to put it. Like happy-go-lucky. He'll take situations that aren't necessary. He'll try to go for plays. Like for example, he chased the Aatrox today. He probably would have ended the game if he just ran it down mid with his team. They had a mid wave. Like why does he need to go ego on that guy? Completely unnecessary throw. Ends up costing them the game. I mean, obviously it's not just his fault. But at the end of the day, if he just hadn't done that, the game was going to be over.
Do you think in the top lane fight he would win it last year?
I think that's like that is whatever. Like I don't even think it's about that. Like maybe not. I don't know. That doesn't matter. I don't think it's about the small decisions. Like it really is about the big picture for me. When you see these players, like when you play against the best in the world, you can tell that they have a goal in mind, and it's really hard to like steer them from their course. Like, that's what makes playing like a really high-level game so suffocating, is because they have a win con, they're going to arrive there, and as much as you try to steer them off their course, you have to really outplay them to get them out of that pace. Which is like, for example, if you're playing against the winning bot side, I was jungling in 2021, for example, and like as a jungler and as a top laner both, like to get these teams off their win conditions is a monumental task, and you need to be really strong individually in lanes in order to stop that from happening, or you need to be extremely strong 5v5 as a team. And I think Berserker had that aura as an individual player, and I think C9 as a whole played around that very well.
Right.
Now, like what is their win con even? Like, even if you can tell what it is from a draft, their behavior in game does not represent who is carrying the game or how they're playing around that player at all.
They're playing individual games.
No, it's not even that they're playing they're playing individual games, but they're playing them like too. So it's like a double wombo combo. It's like not only does your team not have a direction, your individual players are full of holes, and they're getting abused in lane. They're getting abused like in mid game. Like Jojo got caught so many times this game, giving the enemy team hope. I just think in general, it's definitely something that's very lacking in the LCS. I mean, in general, in LEC too, if I'm watching when I'm watching them play, and it's something that I identified in our team yesterday. Because obviously, when you're winning, it's very hard to identify that, because it's like you don't notice those things. You're just like, oh well, I could have played more aggressive in lane, but do I really need to? If you win, the answer is no. If you lose, it's very easy to change your mind.
APA, what do you think's wrong with C9? Thank you, Bwipo. That's good.
I just feel like they're all, like in my head, they're all good players, but they're playing very individual games.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the time, you'll see Jojo winning mid lane, but then there's no like jungle or support proximity to help him in a sense, like what he was saying, suffocate you.
Yeah.
It just feels that way with a lot of their games. Like at least one or two people is winning lane always, but then there's no like shifting around the map. Like when I played at Worlds last year, like when we scrimmed JDG, it felt so suffocating to play against them, because like 369 would mess with Pyosik in the jungle, and then instantly like Knight would just be moving into the jungle to help, and then their jungler would carry the game, or their jungler would gank mid for Knight, and Knight would run bot and then kill my bot lane. So just like so many just like helps you, and then
connections.
Yeah, just connections. Like they go mid goes bot helps top, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't feel that from C9. It feels like they're trying to win mid, top, and bot, but then they're not helping each other at all.
And all three of you have actually beaten C9 this split. Your game, this is super interesting, because prior to when you beat them, we were still on the who's the best player on Cloud9, will they ever lose, like what's their percentage chance of winning the split? Did you feel anything in that game?
I mean, I was just playing Sion, man. I didn't feel anything. But I mean, I would say previous iterations of C9 that I've played versus, for example, it was like Sven Vulcan, I think. Playing versus them that year, it felt like no matter what we did, we couldn't win any scenario. They were permanently pressuring everywhere on the map. If the guy walks at you and it feels like he's egoing, he's doing it for a reason, because you're too scared to do anything, for example. It's like they just instill a lot of pressure into the game, and they keep it up. They never relieve it, and it's really hard to break it, like Bwipo said. But I think that game, for example, that we played versus them, it never felt like they were doing anything on the map that was actually like going to break the game open for them. For example, they tried to dive our bot, but on that timer, it felt so forced, and they made so many uncharacteristic mistakes. Like Maokai is just walking under the turret, tanking, doesn't flash the Varus ulti or the Milio kick. Blabber W's, drops aggro, Berserker is under turret, Varus ulted, has cleanse, doesn't burn cleanse, just tanking 3 turret shots and dies, Stuff like that. Like, these are mistakes that you shouldn't necessarily be making pretty much at all. Like, it is such a rare thing for somebody like, for example, Berserker, from his perception over the previous years, for him to be making, or like I think they got 2v2 killed twice in one game. Like, against he just
the rookies.
He
just walked up and got hooked, and then slowly they took over. Like, stuff like this is like, I feel like they're making a lot of these mistakes, and they're not really working towards their win cons very well or setting each other up. But the timers where they do, I think they just kind of continue to make mistakes around it.
I think I agree with everything you guys have said. Right? I mean, it's different variations of individually they're making mistakes, and then they're also not connected. I think there's probably some truth to their drafts being just a little bit inconsistent. Like, I did an audit of all their drafts going into this week, and I thought they were almost always just picking the matchups, right? Like, not necessarily picking comps, not picking longer range, just like we're going to counterpick our matchup as many times as possible or just power pick the strong champions. Because I imagine like before the season, they were probably winning a lot of scrim games that way, just like 5,000 gold lead, game's over. On stage, they're making mistakes and then also not
I don't know about you guys, but not for our team.
Not good in scrims?
Like, the only team that we feel is good in scrims is Bwipo's team, to be completely honest.
Okay.
Like, we kind of everyone else in scrims. And then versus FlyQuest, it's actually like kind of hard to get wins.
Yeah, you have to sweat pretty hard to beat us.
Yeah, it's like kind of hard to get wins for some in scrims, but then every time we scrim C9, it's like, it doesn't feel hard. It feels like they play a different game in scrims than stage.
I'm actually kind of curious. And if you guys don't want to answer this question, it's fine. But I want you to all tell me who you think the best team in the LCS is in scrims, but like say it at the same time. Because there's different scrim pockets that exist.
I don't know.
Right?
I honestly,
it's a flip, man.
No, I think like I can tell you, like, I don't feel like we are, but like at the same time, I don't feel like anyone is.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I really think it's like.
So scrims are a flip just the same way the stage is a flip.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of teams don't take, are very different than stage games. Just like.
Yeah.
Like, to flame TL, like, we play like 2.5, 3 kills per minute in scrims, and then on stage, I think we're like the lowest kills per minute team.
Yeah, coming into this week, I told Spawn, you were slower than every team in the LPL, LCK, LEC, and LCS.
So like, we talked about that a lot, and like, we flamed ourselves a lot, and we're like, why are we playing so aggressive in scrims, but so passive on stage, and we're trying to like, find that middle ground where like, aggressive is good, but flipping every play possible, probably not that good.
Yeah. Insanity, who's best in scrims?
I don't know, I can't tell.
It's just a flip.
Yeah, I mean.
I think it also heavily depends on what you're drafting. I think
for sure. Some
like
teams
coming
draft
down,
more
like,
for stage, some teams draft
well,
more
it's not
for
even about like,
experimentation.
what is a stage draft then in your eyes? Because you say that, but how do you define a stage draft?
Ooh, that's interesting. It should be something that you're not first timing. Whereas you're more willing to first time you should be more willing to first time in scrims.
Exactly,
the angle has to be really good if it's on stage and you're going to first time it.
I agree, except for staple picks. I think if something's been around in other metas that have been there for a long time, I think most teams and players should know how to play with it if it is a good scenario for it.
Yes. Orianna, Ornn.
Yes, exactly. Stuff like that.
I think there's another layer too. I think you have to acknowledge, like I mentioned, right, like when Sniper plays some champions that are not Aatrox and K'Sante, it does not look pretty. So like, my power level of them is like, well, what is he playing?
Yeah.
Right? Because when he's not playing the champions he's comfortable on, he is actually the worst. Like, he's the worst top player in LCS by a landslide. Like, it's not even close.
I feel like you're on this campaign to get
like they're playing 4v5 in scrims.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking a fact here, okay? Like, for me, like, I actually like the kid a lot. I actually gave him advice. I told him, like, kid, like I was like week 1 or week 2 is like, whatever you do, don't pick, like, pick what works for you. Like, don't pick what everyone else picks for the sake of it. Don't let people like that's what the message I try to get across. And I think that's great. I think that's what you should do. I think fundamentally, as an individual player, if you succumb to what everyone else plays for the sake of everyone else plays it, why are you getting paid to play? Like, you're playing a game, like, you've proven yourself to be good enough to be considered. There's not a single player in LCS or amateur that gets, like, that is even under question of like, can this person carry the game? Okay, maybe like low amateur, but like most players that get paid to play a league can carry a League of Legends game, right? I'd say that's very fair, no?
A game, yes, like a stage
solo queue game. A solo queue game,
a solo queue game, absolutely,
Yeah, but that's what I mean, right? And like, what's the difference then on stage? The only difference is that you are not translating what you know and how to, because at the end of the day, like, League is just math, right? It's who has the bigger wallet, who has the bigger number, who has more CC, who has more damage. Like, these are all the factors, like range. Again, that's a number. Like, all these variables are all just numbers. And ultimately, you know how to reach a point where your champion, where your numbers interact with their numbers, to a point where you're going to get really fed and carry the game, right? And like, pretty much any challenger player can do that. Now, what they can't do is tell other people on their team how to do it with them.
Sure, and have it coordinated.
Exactly. So when you're looking at like team strength in scrims and team strength on stage, usually a stage draft will be something that everyone is very well aligned on, like, this is how I'm playing my lane because this is what's going to happen later. In scrims, people not only don't put as much effort in, which is true, this is just how it happens, and I think that's very fair. Like, it's completely reasonable. I mean, you can't have the same intensity for an official match as you do in a practice match. That's just not going to happen. You can pretend that you can pretend and say that you have. Like, I put in a lot of effort, but on stage, I'll go the extra mile always, because that's like the atmosphere is what creates that for you. I think that's what the COVID era was. That's why it was so different, and a lot of teams shifted in power rankings because at the end of the day, the value I put in playing in our office at home after, you know, the second, third, fourth year I played professionally was not the same as when I came in as a rookie, day one, 2018. I treated every single scrim I got as like, you know, this was my World Finals, you know,
Yeah.
like, I get to play a scrim, right? So the intensity is not going to be the same. And as a result, I think that like looking at scrim results and looking at like who's the best team in scrims, who's the best team on stage, is always going to be a different answer because the amount of intensity a player can bring, I think it is different on stage and in scrims, and it does weigh into how strong they are individually as a player.
It does. It does. Okay, real quick. Here's the standings, just as a refresher. FlyQuest 7-2, 100 Thieves 6-3, TL 5-4. Then we got NRG, Cloud9, Dignitas, Shopify, Immortals.
In the mosh pit.
Question for the group: which team is the most likely to shift in the final 5 games? Like, what's the biggest shift you expect to have? So 100 Thieves is second now. Are they the team that you think will possibly fall the most? Or, you know, Shopify, are you going to have the biggest climbing?
Yeah, I think we will.
I feel like it will come from the bottom up.
Okay.
Like,
do you have a team in mind?
Well, the 5 teams we're looking at, like here, it's all just separated from like 1 to 2 games.
It is. So who's strongest of NRG, Cloud9, Dig, Shopify, Immortals? What's your gut? Something, a team came to your head right away, I'm sure.
The gut is Immortals, actually, but
okay.
I don't know, because like, yeah, oh, it's so hard.
It is. I mean, this is one of the reasons LCS is exciting, but I think it's nice to get the insight from you guys because you've scrimmed against them, you've been on stage yourself.
Like, to me, Immortals should at least make playoffs. I don't think they'll end last.
Okay.
So, do you think won't make playoffs?
Because we got NRG and Cloud9 up here already.
Question? Look, man, if it's us, just say it.
Dignitas had a 2-0 week, which surprised me. Personally, I thought Dignitas was.
I think
when I was watching Dignitas VODs, they had no mid game whatsoever. I thought they were the worst team in the league, and they 2-0'd.
A lot of their games they were actually playing really well, and then they did some like
questionable things.
Like I think the one that I really remember is Tom Kench was TPing out of the Drake pit to his bot turret when they were in a winning position, and then the game just got like completely ruined because their jungler died, the enemy team got the Drake, and the whole like tempo of the game just got completely ruined. Like stuff like that is like super troll, but they were playing well together outside of that, you know. But I feel like that's kind of the case for a lot of these teams right now, you know. Like,
I mean, you've beaten 3 first-place teams.
Yeah.
And then lost to everyone else who wasn't in first.
I mean, just have to have the standings line up for us, you know. If we play at least one first-place team a week, we're good, I think.
Bwipo, what do you think?
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, like, I'm a top laner, so I'm looking for top lane perspective. And there's a reason why Udyr is the highest win rate top laner in LCS, and that's because all the top laners are not very good. And that's like, honestly, yesterday, me included. Like, I played yesterday, and it helped me realize why. It's just because simply the output of an Udyr, let's say output of Udyr in mid game is 1 cup, 1 mug. The output, expected value of a carry champion, like, I don't know, Aatrox, might be 2 mugs mid game, right?
Okay.
Do you need a 3rd mug?
Does that make sense?
Okay, let's back this up. Udyr's 1 cup in mid game, and Aatrox is supposed to be 2 cups?
Yes.
So you're saying Aatrox.
But the players can't pilot Aatrox well enough, so in reality, Aatrox is only 1 cup.
So you're saying Udyr's easy, and the top
Udyr is easy, and the maximum output he can have is 1 cup, but it's also the minimum output because he's easy. He's a tank. He just runs around.
Unless you start lane RR.
But when you get good, suddenly like the enemy top laner might have 2 mugs worth of output, or maybe even 3.
But then why'd you play Udyr today then?
Because I absolutely decimated their early game.
Yeah, and then by the end of the game.
Because like he still has strength as a champion inherently.
I thought by the end of the game you were like 4 cups because you were 1 before.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like I played him because I looked at their comp and I thought, holy, they have negative damage. Plus, like I think with all the bans that have happened topside, he has no good picks here because he removed Darius willingly, and I removed Gnar, and these are the 2 main picks people would play into Udyr that like are prepared. Yeah, if he wanted to pick something other than Cassante, then he could have. But I didn't know what it was going to be, and I was more than fine picking into whatever was left. So from my perspective, it was just like, they have nothing good to pick here if I go Udyr, even though like I have not prioritized them since week 1. So as a result, this is because I believe in that, right? Like for example, Cassante should have 2 mugs worth of output, but that game he had none, right? Like for example, if you compare Cassante from behind with me playing yesterday and him playing today, no offense, but I think I breathed some life into the game with the topside skirmish I did. That was almost scary, I think, for the enemy team. Like they were really far ahead, and that game was almost snap lost because my champion was doing some disgusting things in that fight.
I mean, your top timers, you give your team a free Drake as well.
Yeah.
And like.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Our snowball.
It's like the Udyrs are not moving for Drakes and giving free Drakes. They're not invading and making the enemy Vi choose bad pathing. Like Vi had to start Wolves that game. I called like if she does, like, she has to start Wolves because we're doing Raptors in the bot side. I'm invading top side. She has no other option. And I know it's a bit pessimistic, and especially me like talking down on players and stuff. I think it's just being realistic, and it's like it's just the league you're in, and you have to play towards that. Like I think playing slow in LCS is just more rewarding because people are just playing slower League of Legends. That's the reality.
True, but 100 Thieves has the fastest kill pace in the league, and they're kind of the surprise
and
team.
I think that's why they're second best team, because people play shaky, they make mistakes, and they triple down. Like you saw that, for example, in the game against, I think it was TL, right? It's like they completely smashed early game. It was a complete free win for them. Then they threw the game completely, threw again, threw a third time, and then they won anyway because they full sent it again.
And the same thing happened today against Cloud9.
Exactly. So the point is like they've embraced the fact that they're just going to full send it and hope it works out. And it's been working out because their players are playing well individually on the champions they prioritize because their players are good at them individually. Yeah. And I think that's great for them. I think that's exactly what's good. I mean, Ayla himself tweeted, there's no good teams in the LCS. There's only monkeys running around. I don't know if you read that one. I retweeted it, thought it was absolutely hilarious because, honestly, he's not been playing well. So I don't know why he's saying that. But, like, he's getting monster carried by his top side, and it's not even close. And, like, it's fine, I don't mind people like throwing out banner stuff, but at the end of the day, I think embracing like the idea of what your team is and then drafting towards that is what makes a team good. Okay. 100 Thieves is not drafting Udyr top and doing nothing. They're drafting Aatrox, Vi, Talia, full sending it.
They fight.
Against us, they picked Silas, Aatrox, full sent it, obviously got decimated because they lost lanes very hard. Solo kill top, mid lane couldn't breathe, and then we just showed up with like infinite gold plus a better comp. But I think other LCS teams just aren't prepared for that. So they're just missing timers where they're stronger than 100 Thieves, not fighting on those, and then whenever 100 Thieves is strong, they fight.
Right.
That's what makes them the second best team.
Awesome, thank you. One funny thing that I feel like is happening, at least for us on the desk, and it happened in this conversation too, is like NRG won Summer and also was like the best team at Worlds, but nobody's talking about them. And they're 4 and 5. So like we did this whole kind of diagnosing what's wrong with C9. Let's start with you, Insanity. What do you think's wrong with NRG?
I mean, from what I watched last year, I think a lot of their wins were when Palafox and Contracts were actually playing like pretty damn well out of their mind. Yeah. And I don't think that's been happening as much recently. I mean, last year Palafox kind of, if I remember correctly, slumped a bit in the spring split and then played a lot better going into summer. But I don't know. I feel like their mid jungle is like the core of their team. Also, actually, I think last year as well, FBI was like really consistent in his lane, and they're also making a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes in the bot lane. Like they tried to dive yesterday, and like it kind of ruined the pace of the game. They didn't wait for KIA, who had a timer, to actually come. They could have actually waited for him, and then 2v4'd them under turret, even when Sejuani showed up, I think, or at least tried. But I think it's stuff like that. Like if their mid jungle is not playing well and their bot lane isn't like at least being stable and pushing their lane and trying to get leads that way, they kind of aren't the best team, but I'm not really sure other than that.
You got any thoughts, API?
I mean, we faced them a lot last year, so.
Fair. You played them a lot in the playoffs.
Yeah, like I think 9 games. Yeah. Lost against 4 games and then lost in game 5. It feels like they just, like last year they connected themselves a lot, like bringing it back to the C9 point. Like, player I remember from Dokla in summer finals was he played Rumble. We didn't think he played Rumble, first off, so we're actually really surprised about the Rumble pick. And then he ran bot lane, and like I think he double killed our bot lane or something like that, or like killed one of us, and it was just like a really just like surprising play because I think Contracts helped him top lane. He instantly went bot lane, helped bot lane out, and then bot lane went and helped Palafox out. And it's just like everybody's just slowly getting suffocated out of the game when we're all just like playing our own like individual games. And then I just don't think they have that this year. Like last year it felt like, they're gonna get vision control for Palafox. Palafox is gonna get mid shove and he's gonna move to Contracts. And Contracts is gonna invade somewhere, and then Contracts is gonna draw the jungler, and then Dokla and FBI are gonna be winning lane. But then it's just like, that stuff is not really happening this year. I don't know, it's just like, maybe they're just really peaking during summer finals and like Worlds, but it just feels like it's not the same suffocation.
I think, to be fair, I don't think too much of the meta is great for their playstyle as like a team, why they were strong last year, for example. But I mean, they tried a couple games to actually pull that playstyle off, and I think the games that they're actually doing it, they do win the game, but there are also some games where they try to play like that, and like I said before, they just make a lot of mistakes around it and kind of blows up the game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of factors at play, you know. Live patch for the first time. The offstage drafting probably has some influence, getting to think about your matchups a little bit more. Who knows how much that pays off. What I want to actually ask, though, is we're in this weird point right now because we've played 4 weeks of the split. There's 5 games left. But we're not going to play until March. There's going to be like 2.5 weeks of scrimming. It's a big opportunity for teams to change their identity a lot. So I don't know. I'm just, how are you guys feeling with this break coming up?
I'm not the biggest fan of it.
I'm also not the biggest fan of it.
Okay. If no one, but like, who's it going to favor? Or maybe even more importantly, like, how are you just going to deal with it? Like, what's the plan?
I think it also depends on the patch, like how big this next patch is. Probably depends on it a lot. Like, you know, I think a lot of Team Liquid players are going to grind the game a tremendous amount, but like maybe other teams won't. And if it's a big patch, the meta shifts a lot. Then like some teams will be benefited, some teams won't. But like to me, a lot of it just depends on the patch.
Okay, Bwipo?
I mean, I don't mind. I think at the end of the day, you have the same amount of time to get to the end of the split, right? Normally we'd have 10 teams, you'd still be playing the same amount. So really the only difference is that there's no official matches.
There's no official matches, yeah.
That's the only difference. So if you need official matches to be educated on what your team needs to do and how to get better, probably shouldn't get paid.
I think there is a level, though. Official matches are the things that drive change home for a lot of players, right? Like,
yeah,
once
I mean,
it
obviously,
finally
like,
doesn't
people
work
get the
on stage.
reality check, but like they just need, like, if you need to lose on stage to be like to know what's wrong with your gameplay, then like I said, like I don't think that's good. That's a very bad trait to have.
You're comfortable, first place.
I think I would be scrimming the exact same amount of games. The only difference is they get a longer break, which is nice. There's just less stage matches. That's it.
There's not much of a difference, but I think I would just rather have more games total over the split. Like
that's true.
Like that is my main problem with it. It feels bad that we're only playing 14 games total.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah, and I mean it's nice always.
Like obviously I'm happy with the break. We're just going to be screaming anyways, right? Like that's fine, but. I don't know, like I said,
okay,
I
then I misunderstood.
Games,
no, I misunderstood then because it made it sound like you guys made it sound like the break is a bad thing. I just think it's the same thing. It's just less stage games.
I actually think the break will be a good thing for a lot of the teams because people have like extra time to actually work on their mistakes and what they're bad at right now.
I mean, I think ultimately, like as a league team, it's really important that you're connected outside of the game. Like when you look at a draft, like and you're all thinking the same thing, like that's when you're a successful team. That's my opinion. Like every motion every individual player makes is geared towards achieving that unanimous goal.
Yeah.
I think there's a big lag of that in LCS. I'm not going to lie. That's why over the years it was generally speaking the worst region. I think that's why NRG stood out as a great team because I actually think they had a great
chemistry.
Yeah, they're very.
Well, it's not even just chemistry. It's the fact that like they're very decisive because they know that this is their moment to win the game. Right? Individual players also recognize when they have a winning advantage. This is when they're supposed to press it. This is when they're supposed to not press it. Right? And then additionally, they put the burden of responsibility on who they thought were their best players. Right? Because at the end of the day, every team will have to have someone that's dedicated to taking risks, right? You can't win League of Legends without taking risks. They removed that from the game in Season 7 when they removed the green ward. That's what back in the day when you would take no risks, you would always get full vision, and you would always make a calculated guess, no matter what. Season 8 changed that. There's no more like tracker's knife, whatever it is. I think it was called that.
Yeah.
And as a result, you had to actually take risks to get information. So you had to walk into the jungle, and if you walk into the jungle dark, well, you might walk into someone. And you might beat you up. So winning lane became much more important because if you are the one pushing a wave and forcing your opponent to stand their tower, you can get information. And that information is what allows other players to make better risks. So what you see in like teams like JDG, you mentioned scrimming them, if 369 managed to get a winning advantage, he does not hit the plates. What does he do?
Run straight into the jungle.
He walks into the Krog camp and wards it. Because that information will allow the people they put the responsibility of carrying on, Kanavi and Ruler, to make better decisions. Because at the end of the day, information is just a tool to make a better decision in League of Legends, right? And I think that ultimately, and this is my experience from playing in the LCS, not enough players understand that they have to push their lead to get that information. They think that that information is obsolete, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they push their lead to get their lead. So
no,
they have more
not
goal.
even. Like a lot of people are happy just going even, and like they don't do the small things that feel like pressuring. For example, APA, the first thing he told me actually when we were in the makeup room is, whenever you're like whenever I play against you top lane, like every time you fog, I'm scared you're gonna walk mid.
I mean, it's true.
Because I do sometimes.
Yeah.
And because every time, like, I don't just push one wave and go AFK. I sit under my tower and I cheese him in a bush or something. Like I move and I get the small amount of information, whatever I can. Check the grubs, ward the gromp. Like you try and find something, and that's what making a winning lane. That's what makes it so important. That's why, for example, yesterday in a game against NRG, when I had to, like winning a position and I was winning my lane, I didn't translate enough. I didn't get those small information, like small bits of information that would potentially change one of my other teammates' decision making for the better. Vi went topside, we didn't see her cross back. Suddenly my bot lane knows we can proxy 2v3 and they can't breathe. Like, it's such a small thing to put a ward as Udyr in their topside jungle. You'd almost think that, for me, it makes no difference, literally. In fact, it's even worse for me because I arrived to my lane late. But it made such a big difference. And that, I think, is like the essence of what I think is a great team, is recognizing the small things that the individual players do and are tasked with, so that the best players on that individual team, or at least the people that are tasked with the responsibility of carrying, can carry the game the absolute most efficient way. And that's what NRG was great at. That's what made them a great team, in my opinion.
Okay.
When I watched their NRG play, I was actually really impressed. Individually, their players knew when it was their turn to play the game and when it was not their turn to play the game. Like, something that really impressed me is, like, you would see Palafox play like a complete animal, full push wave, because he knows, like, if they go on me, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna get, like, this is gonna be a good fight. And then when it's not his turn, he disappears. At Worlds 20, like last year, sorry, he would just disappear.
Yeah.
2023, I believe.
Yeah.
I got the years wrong because I missed the year. Anyway, that's what that for me is like what I seek in excellent League of Legends, and something that I really want to bring to FlyQuest, because I think that Inspire does a fantastic job of aligning us as a team in this notion. But I think we can step one step further beyond, where we really like fundamentally understand what the champions do as a team, and we agree on what champions do in League of Legends and how they want to conduct themselves. Because I think that that's like the number one difficulty. I think that's fundamentally the difference between Asia and the West. 100%. When they play Twisted Fate, for example, Twisted Fate's a completely different champion in Asia than it is in the West. Do you all agree?
I agree. 100%.
What do you think, Jatt?
Yes.
And that's because their fundamental understanding of what Twisted Fate is so grounded. It's like, this is what TF is, this is what he does, and this is the best and most efficient way for Twisted Fate to suffocate a game. And it's not to press ult. He just farms.
Just fog.
He just always walks in fog, and there's nothing you can do when he has priority in fogs, because the second he ults, you're relieved. You're like, oh, I can play the game again.
Play the game.
They understand
They just hold everyone on lock. He earns more gold than everyone else. So guess what happens? He gets more items than you, and suddenly when he gets a spike, he shows up, and he's just so far ahead of everyone else because he just generates more gold. And it's just an example of a very extreme case.
You should talk to Jensen sometime about our TF conversations in 2020 with Kane.
I will. I actually think TF's pretty good right now. But
he needs push, in Jensen's opinion. He could not play without push.
The point is,
Kane thought otherwise.
Fundamentally, the whole team has such a different, like an Asian team has such a different way of approaching the game, because everyone has like a very strong opinion of what a champion does and how that progresses into victory. And individually, they know how to like stack up the little bits and pieces of information to make sure that their players that are supposed to carry the game are going to carry the game, because they know what the champ wants, they know how to give it to them, and then obviously the hardest part, they execute very well.
Either way, 2.5 weeks to scrim. If I was putting my coach hat on, I'd be like, the way you scrim when you have upcoming games is different than the way you scrim when your games are in 2.5 weeks.
True.
That'll be my opinion. You can experiment a little bit more with picks. You can add things to your champion pool that you wouldn't necessarily want to waste scrim games on throughout the week. Because for me, back when it was 3 days a week, and you guys experienced this last split when they had the compressed 6-week schedule, and you're playing like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like you can't really add that much in between weeks because you feel like they're wasted games if you're not going to be able to use them that week. So you just end up dropping a champion forever. So maybe teams will be able to add more champions now that there's 2.5 weeks. But Insanity AP, I wanted to give you two a chance, kind of as we wrap the episode up, to share any opinions or any thoughts that you have on your team or the LCS so far.
I mean, it's been pretty competitive, even though at the same time I think a lot of teams have been less competitive. It's like
that makes it more competitive.
Teams overall, I think the skill level is higher, especially like micro-wise. But I also think at the same time there have been a lot of like random mistakes that normally people wouldn't make. But I mean, I don't know. I enjoy LCS this year. I think it's been really fun so far, and I don't know.
I agree.
I mean,
I think for Team Liquid, at least personally, I know a lot of my teammates feel the same way, but I think we feel like we could be much higher in like win-loss. I think like there's a lot of dumb mistakes that we make. Like yesterday, for example, we like Calista based. Me, in fact, didn't know Calista was basing, even though we said it.
Right.
And then he died mid lane trying to defend mid turret, and we lost mid turret. We lost top turret too. And it's like, what did we just do? That is so completely terrible. Because I went bot lane when Yon's basing. Like, why can't I just stay mid lane? It's just completely terrible what I did. And just like stupid things like that, I think are happening a lot in our games.
Yeah.
Like even today a little bit. So I think if we keep fixing those stupid mistakes and those stupid mistakes stop happening, like I just listen to Yon when he says I'm basing and I don't go bot like a noob, then I think it will be just a lot better. But until that stops happening, then maybe we'll still be noobs.
Awesome. Well, not awesome, but it's good that you're identifying those things and have faith. Bwipo, 60 seconds for your final thought, or less.
Yeah, I'm just excited to be playing again. Honestly, like I've been, relatively harsh on the LCS in this segment, but I'm happy it's back. I'm happy I get to play again. I've nothing but enjoyed playing on stage. Even though we lost yesterday, I knew we were due. It was coming. I do fundamentally think we are the best team, and it's not close. I think that we will evolve to be the best team even further, and I think everyone should be very worried about what FlyQuest is going to look like after this break.
Are they the best team? Is FlyQuest the best?
Stan says so.
I mean, but do you think so?
Doesn't matter what I think.
Fair enough.
Say so.
You're first place. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
I think not only are we first place, I think the direction we're taking and the ways we are winning games and the resilience we show.
Yeah.
Especially because I don't think that we all agree on how every situation must be played and what the champions all are doing, which is what I'm going to be hopefully using this break for.
Yeah.
Leads me to believe that we will be the best.
It's really good to have you back in the LCS. It's really fun seeing all the unique champions you guys play and the energy you bring to the league as well as this podcast. So thanks everyone. Thanks to all of you for having this conversation. And that's it for this week. Pros is done. We'll see you when the LCS resumes in week 5.